The weather has been really hot here lately. It is always pretty hot here in Georgia, but lately it's been in the high 90s, and that paired with the humidity it feels so heavy. I miss the dry heat of Utah. Even more than that, I miss the cool air of the mountains and the forests that I'm used to. Everything is just slow. Everything moves slow, everything except for the mosquitoes. It's been interesting to be back here and to live in this weather again. I like Georgia a lot, but I didn't miss this summer heat. Finding out that my mother-in-law had cancer was really hard. I love her a lot, and I don't want her to have to go through that, and it has been so scary and thrown everything up in the air, and I've cried a lot. I really have a hard time with the concept of death. I don't understand why people have to die. The only people that I've known that have died are my two grandfathers. It has never, this is gonna sound weird, but it's never sat right with me. I mean, I still cry every time I think about it. It doesn't make sense to me that people are just gone like that. And that body that bore my husband, and that body that hugged me, and that grandpa that carried me on his shoulders, it doesn't make sense to me that eventually all of those things will be gone. That body will be either burned in ashes in the wind, or that it will be laying in the ground. And I think that comes down to me not understanding change. When I was young, we moved every 2 or 3 years my whole life. I had never lived anywhere for more than 5 years until I was 20. We moved all the time. But even through that, there always felt like there was this stability. There was pretty reliable home life and reliable people around me. And so even though the setting might have changed, it always felt like we were the same people and things were the way that they should be. Especially because past the age of 5, I lived my whole life in Alaska. And so even when we would move from one apartment to the next or one house to the next, it was still the same setting, and it was still the same town, and I still knew exactly where everything was. That all kind of changed when I was 16, or I would say a few years before that. My parents weren't super consistent with going to church, but at least they were pretty consistent with their beliefs. When I was, I think, 14, they threw everything up in the air. We were your basic hardcore Christians who wanted to usher in Zion and wanted Christ's second coming, and we needed to be prepared for that. And that meant my mom would sew me modest swimming suits for my swim class, and that we were homeschooled. We even at one point lived out in a tent for 6 months because they wanted to get away from society and all of the evils that it held and protect their children. And that didn't end up working because they just didn't have the resources, so we ended up moving back into town. But I grew up my whole life with a fairly consistent ideology and understanding of the world, of religion, and the way that the universe functions. When I was about 13 or 14, that all shifted. My parents went away from the church. They stopped going because of a falling out with some people. My dad started getting anxiety about going to church at all. We would all get dressed and ready and pull up to the parking lot, and my dad would say that he didn't feel right about it, and we would turn around and go home. Eventually we stopped going altogether. And that was hard. We had a family identity, and that was one of religious consistency and honestly superiority in a way. So when they stopped going, that was one thing. I could understand the reasons they gave. But at the same time, my dad got really into looking at nude photos, specifically of women. The first thing I remember is him downloading Playboy. He started downloading Playboy excessively. My parents never worked. My dad had a job until he moved to Alaska. And when I was 5, we moved to Alaska, and he looked for work for a little while, couldn't find it, and then just never worked again. So he had all day, every day to do whatever he wanted, which was usually researching something. And in the beginning, it was researching gospel topics and church and doctrine. Then at this point in time, when he got into downloading essentially softcore pornography pictures, that became the all-consuming thing. He was downloading them all the time, and it was the most important project in the world. And my mom has a history of abuse in her past. I know that really touched something close to her. The one person that she saw as her savior, who took her out of that and brought her peace and safety, and was going to be a religious man, a devout man, to what she cared about more than anything else, which was her faith. He stabbed her in the back with all of that. And so I remember those years being really hard, and her kind of going crazy, blaming herself, not knowing who he was, and everything was just up in turmoil. It didn't make sense to me either. At the same time, I remember him declaring to the family that cuss words were no longer prohibited, and that he thought that they were useful, and he was just going to start cussing. And then he did. He just started openly cussing, and so did the rest of the family. He kind of flipped everything upside down. I grew up with a very devout Christian family who at times would discuss not celebrating Christmas or Easter the way that people do, and wouldn't celebrate Halloween, and instead we would celebrate a fall harvest revolving around God and being thankful, and we would focus on the Lord during Christmas. For Easter, we would eat an unseasoned lamb, and I remember that my parents would try these things out. They would try no presents, and they didn't stick to it, but they would go down these lines of thinking, and they were all consistent lines of thinking. They were all revolving around the gospel and this very Christian ideology. And then all of a sudden, all at once, porn was in the home. My dad was looking into things like Blue Lagoon because he wanted to see the nudity of younger women. He started downloading Playboy. We were very poor because my dad didn't work, and so we were on food stamps my whole life, and we never had a lot of money except for the dividend, which we would get once a year, which is the people of Alaska, the residents, get some of the revenue back from whatever oil we got that year. We would get, usually that was about between $1,000 and $2,000 per person, and that doesn't matter if it's a newborn or not, so they got money for all of the kids, and that's how they would pay things like the electric bill and taxes and whatever. And then usually they had a few thousand left over to spend on whatever they wanted, and one year I remember them talking about it, and they ended up spending it on a subscription to Playboy. And then they went through, during the duration of whatever that subscription was, I think it was like 3 months or something, and they downloaded every single thing from Playboy. And I believe to this day they have a big, rugged SD hard drive that holds like thousands and thousands of nude, grotesque pictures of women. So that kind of just threw everything up in the air. And I still tried to hold strong to the beliefs that I was raised with, but there was this disconnect between that and what my parents were now doing. And I could listen to their excuses, but their excuses never made sense. They said that they did it because they didn't want my brothers to be exposed to porn later in life, and so they wanted to desensitize them by exposing them to softcore things like that. I did my best to believe it, but it never felt right. In our church, there's a very, well, I would say in I think any church, there's a really heavy emphasis on baptism, and you're supposed to get baptized by the age of 8. They didn't baptize any of my siblings once they stopped going to church. And there's a lot of things that they stopped doing. They did things that preached church trust. They did things that they could potentially get excommunicated for, yet they still claimed this religious superiority over the people who we went to church with and over everyone. Every single person that I know, they claim to be better than, and everyone else is blind and they're the true followers of the Lord. But ultimately, and what I've come to see as an adult, is that I don't think my dad is religious. I think he's using it as a tool to get whatever he wants. That has been really painful to realize. But with the unpredictability of life lately and traveling across the United States, not knowing what's in store for our future, those feelings have started to come back up. It brings a lot of anger and frustration and sadness, and I still don't know how to fully process why that even happened or who my parents really are. So as I've been sitting in this debilitating Georgia heat, dealing with the craziness of life lately, I find myself thinking about that. It's always in the back of my mind. I think maybe there isn't an answer, and maybe it's not for me to know. That's just been on my mind as I deal with everything. Something else that's happened recently is I started looking for a job again and got one. We do have a time restraint now, and I do have to get back to Utah before I'm supposed to start my new job. And that scares me. That scares me because life is so unstable and unpredictable, and I never know what's going to happen. And so having a place that I have to be that kind of dictates my life is something scary that I haven't done since I got married, really. And I don't know how that's going to go. I really want a work day. I want a life. I want a predictable schedule. I think there's a freedom in that consistency. There's a freedom from the listlessness of being stuck in your head all the time. When you have a job, there's people and deadlines and things to do. Life has a little bit more structure, and I am looking forward to that so much. I want that stability, but if I can't find it, then I want to find stability in what I have. Recently, I've been getting into houseplants, and I think those have kind of saved me. I have this desperate desire to live in a log cabin out in the middle of nowhere where it's silent, and I have the opportunity to grow things and garden and fix up my house and live the life that me and my husband have always dreamed of. Let this just be a message to anyone out there listening that even though life is crazy and your past doesn't make sense, and sometimes that makes you angry and sad and so confused, that doesn't mean that it's not okay. You might not be able to control everything, but you're never out of control. There's always something that you can keep for yourself. There's always a way to make life calm, even if it's just for a moment. For me, that's tending my houseplants and desperately trying to wrangle the crazy puppies. And someday, hopefully, it will be standing outside in the forest again on a lot of land that I own in a little cabin where everything's the way I want it to be. But right now, it's houseplants and dogs. And I'm okay with that. I'm wishing you all well, and if any of you are listening, just know that it's all going to be okay. Because it always is. So life has been pretty tumultuous lately, just up in the air, and I haven't really known what is going to be happening next, which is always scary. And as I've kind of contemplated my past and been going through some lows lately, and just the stress of not knowing what's next and not knowing if you can trust the future, I've really been drawn to houseplants. My father-in-law is really interested in houseplants, so he has them everywhere. And I thought that I knew a lot about houseplants because I had bought a bunch and could keep them alive. But from talking to him and then researching more, I'm realizing that that is a whole world that I haven't even unlocked yet. And it has been really healing for me to have houseplants for as long as I've had them, which is probably a good 5 years now. But delving into that a little bit deeper, I feel excitement again, and it's kind of giving me a foundation or a rock, some sort of security in all of the chaos. When we originally moved in with my in-laws a year ago, I had brought all of my houseplants, and that is a lot of these that you can see here. And I couldn't fit them all in the car when we moved back to Utah, so my husband promised me that we could just rebuy some when we got to our apartment in Utah. And so of course I took him up on that offer, and my father-in-law has taken beautiful care of these while we have been gone for the past year. And so coming back now, the plan was to take them all and take them off his hands because he's obviously busy and dealing with a lot. I'm really happy to be reunited with these plants. It's served as kind of an anchor in the wind and something that I have, even though I'm not at my home with all of my things and everything feels like it's up in the air and I don't necessarily know what the future holds. I have been able to kind of find security in my houseplants, if that makes sense. And they have given me the patience to wait for what I want as well, because when I get low, I just crave that cool forest in a northern climate where everything's quiet and slow and the towns are small and people are always outside. That's how I grew up, and I miss that lifestyle so much sometimes. And where we aren't in a place to have a cabin in the woods and we don't own acreage up there yet, that's the future plan, but we're not necessarily close yet. It helps to have houseplants. They help a lot, especially being in an apartment and just not having the opportunity to garden the way that I want to. Having houseplants kind of relieves the pressure inside of me that I feel to get outside when that's not necessarily possible. We're not in an apartment here, obviously. We are on an acre of Georgia land, and I love that there's some forest and we have ducks and chickens, and that's been a really nice reprieve from apartment living. But ultimately, I think houseplants have saved me. Houseplants have saved me from being in different places all the time and never knowing what's up. And they've saved me from kind of not having that piece of land that I want and the clarity that comes from that. So I just thought that I would show you a few of them because that's something I've really been getting into. Oh, and I meant to mention that I've been delving deeper into the more conventional houseplant hobby, and I'm realizing how big of a hobby it can be, and I'm kind of delving into the more traditional houseplants. Like I really want to get a monstera, and I'm holding back because we're gonna have to take all of these in the car with us home. This isn't even half of them, and so I'm a little bit worried that we won't be able to fit them all in the car. So I think adding a monstera to that is probably a bad idea. But when we get home, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold back. I've been greedily collecting as many houseplants as I can, and even here I've collected some ivy and some mint that I found outside, and so the plant collection is ever growing. I just wanted to share with you some of the plants that I have in here. I'll probably add some footage of the other plants just so that you can see them, but these are some of my favorites, and I'm really excited to get home and be able to repot them and kind of give them a new life, maybe repurpose a couple of them and see if I can grow them to maturity. So this is an orchid that I got at the Lowe's clearance section, and she was looking pretty sad when I got her. And I think that these 3 leaves are all new. She flowered about a month ago, which is probably a year after I got her. So she's been really happy. I haven't repotted her since I bought her. I should have, and I kept meaning to, but I never did, and she stayed happy. So she's been thriving. I need to clean her off a little bit. She's kind of dusty, but I mean, look at that new leaf. She is very happy, and I am happy that she's happy. I think I want a million more. Every time a plant does well in my hands, I want all of them. And then this is a new addition. My father-in-law just gave these to me. It is a begonia. I want to say Rex, but I don't know. I really don't know anything about begonias. I don't know what to do with it, and I'm excited to learn how to take care of it, but also a little bit nervous because it's just so completely new and I don't know what I'm doing. So that one will hopefully not be too big of a struggle. I hear that they're easy, but I'm still a little bit nervous about water times and what all it needs. This is not looking as good as she once was. This is another one I rescued from the Lowe's clearance section. That's where I get like 90% of my plants. And it is, I believe, a peace lily. She's beautiful. I love peace lilies and I've had great success growing them. I think with everything going on, she just has been a little bit neglected. And when I got here, she was looking kind of sad, which is totally okay because they're super easy to revive. And so she's got a lot of new little foliage coming in and I'm really excited to get home. When I get home, I'm gonna order some fertilizer. I have a specific kind that I've been wanting to try. So I'm gonna get some of that and hopefully she will. She's looking good. She's looking good. We just need more of her. And I think she needs a little bit more soil because I can see her roots showing. And so she's good, but she's definitely been better. And we're gonna get her back to that place. And then this is my favorite pothos in the whole world. I don't have any idea where I got it. I have no clue. I think maybe it was one of the small ones from the Home Depot, and then I've just grown it to this size because it was pretty small when I got it, but I really don't remember. I have no idea where I got this. She is so happy though. She has been happy. She got really big and then I chopped her. And as of now, she's got some sun damage. She's a little torn up and I don't know why. She's this way when I came back about a month ago and she's good. She's got new growth and she's happy, but she just needs a little beautification, that's all. I just love the colors of her leaves. I mean, look at that. I love when there's some green. I love that variegation. I know it's a common pothos, but she has just given me so much joy and I'm excited to get her back to a bushier, happy state. She's kind of sad right now and I'm not exactly sure what's up. I think she probably just needs a moment of peace and to be cared for a little bit. And then this one I got for $7 at Walmart. She's a pink princess philodendron, and I just recently even discovered that this existed. I don't remember why. I think it just was a YouTube video that came up on my homepage and I clicked on it and it was about a pink princess, and then I just everything I watched I kept hearing about pink princess and I kind of became obsessed. And then like a day later I went to Walmart and just thought I'd check, and there was a whole row of pink princesses on sale for $7. And I feel like that's a really good price for this. I'm ecstatic. I'm so excited about this. I don't know anything about philodendrons. I've never had a philodendron, but I am very, very hopeful. I have two of these. I couldn't resist just getting one, so I got two. And she has some pink. She needs light. This is a new leaf that unfurled a couple of days ago, and it doesn't have much variegation. So I want to put her in some light and get that pink showing just as much as I can. And I don't know, I'm really excited to experiment with this plant. That's kind of why I got two, so I could have one climbing and, I don't know, kind of mess around. But I'm very excited about that. So that's kind of the gist. I have, I've got two more philodendrons, another pink princess, and then a white knight. And then I have a few more pothos and some other little things here and there. And then at home, I've got a bunch. I've got a big, beautiful fern and some other plants that I'll have to show you sometime. So this is just a little bit of my collection, but I just wanted to share this with you guys because it's brought me so much joy to be able to tend to these plants and take care of something that's not, yelping all the time and biting my ankles. The puppies have been crazy lately. It gives me a little piece of outdoor no matter where I am. It does a good job of just barely keeping my desire to garden under control. I think I would go stir crazy if I didn't have some sort of plant to take care of. So having this collection of plants has helped a lot while I've been in an apartment, and especially while I've been traveling. Having plants here as well as back home, it's kind of been a link and a way to connect me to what I love even when life is crazy and I don't know where I'm going to be next month. I'm a little bit worried that with this new job I'll be too busy to take care of all of them, but I'm sure that I will find a way to make that work. And overall I'm just excited. I'm so excited. My list of plants that I want is just growing and growing all the time. It gets bigger every day and it's a little bit overwhelming, but I don't know. It brings me joy, and so I think it's worth following. It gives me a lot of peace. So I just thought that I would leave you guys with this last little message that even when life is crazy and your past comes up and you're just feeling really low, just remember that there are always little things in life that keep you going, and there are always little ways that you can connect yourself to some stability. Even when you don't know what is happening around the corner, you can still have the stability of your day-to-day life and your hobbies and the things that you love. So just remember that even when things are rough, there's always a silver lining and it will all work out in the end. I hope that anyone who's watching this, you're having the best day. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.